Bonjour, Kinamagyanine Ireland Indishnikas, and welcome to this production of Support Coach Television. Today's episode, a use for community land, the full text reading. This video will accompany all three reads for this week's Support Coach. It is a graded week, so you want to make sure you're taking your time understanding the story, following what's asked of you in the orange, green, and blue box questions, and then finally submitting it at the comprehension check after the third read. During your first read, you'll be practicing first read skills such as summarizing and asking and answering questions. The second read, you'll be looking at reasons and evidence and author's opinion. And the third read, you'll be thinking critically about the selections. A use for community land. The town of Winterville is debating what to do with a piece of land in the community. The land houses an abandoned factory that once produced shoes and boots. It closed after a fire 15 years ago. Below is a letter from a local business leader to the editor of the town newspaper. He wants the town to use the land for a shopping and office complex. Following the letter is a blog post. The blog writer is a woman in the community who has a different idea for the land. First, the Winterville Times. Dear editor, I think the land where the old Brush Brothers shoe factory stood should be developed into a state-of-the-art shopping and office complex. It would support local businesses and attract new ones too. I envision a complex of 4 or 5 buildings. A main store would be the focus for the complex. Ideally, this would be a large chain store. Our small community needs a large retail store that sells a lot of things that people need on a daily basis. Not only would such a store offer a huge variety of goods all in one place, but it will also provide thousands of new jobs for our community. The economic impact would be positive. Smaller retailers and businesses could move into spaces around the chain store. With the proper support from the city council, some of the spaces could be zoned or legally set aside for restaurants. The complex would attract shoppers and workers during the day and people dining out at night. Perhaps in the future, a movie theater could be added. Members of the Brush family are interested in opening a small shoe store in the complex. It would not be difficult to develop the abandoned factory into an office complex. The land was already used for a business, the Brush Factory. The fire did not heavily damage the electrical system. The wiring could easily be updated, and it would not cost a lot of money. I've had a contractor check the water pipes too. He says electricity and water are ready to flow. It's important that Winterville stay economically competitive with neighboring towns. The businesses in the downtown areas of nearby cities are booming. As a result, more and more people want to live in the surrounding suburbs, including Winterville. Watertown, to our north, has lowered taxes, so it's easier for businesses to move there. We don't want to be left out of this progress. Most important, a shopping and office complex like the one I'm proposing will lead to a housing boom. If our businesses are doing well, then more people will want to move here. If people begin to move here, then we will need to build more homes and apartment buildings. This will create hundreds of needed construction jobs. I can foresee this cycle continuing into the future, ensuring Winterville security for generations to come. Contact your town councilmen and councilwomen and encourage them to support my proposal. Raul Rivera, President, Millstone Industries Incorporated. Next, the Winterville Community Blog. I've read Raul Rivera's letter to the editor and what to do with the old Brush Brothers factory. I strongly disagree with him. I know Raul and admire his achievements in the community, but I think the last thing our town needs is a huge shopping center or office complex. What we need is a place for our kids to play and the community to come together. I would like to see the land developed into a school sports facility. Right now, the only school in our community with any kind of outdoor facility is Walden High School. However, the soccer field is just a worn-out baseball diamond that the soccer team plays on. The runners on the track team have no track. They just run around the neighborhood. and there are 2 shabby tennis courts in need of repair. Because the only facilities are at the high school, the middle school teams have to take a bus to Walton to use its space. A local news station measured the size of the old factory. If the building were torn down, the space would be big enough for a large outdoor sports area. There is room for a separate track with a grass island in the center and soccer field. There's also space for 8 new tennis courts. The tennis courts could be a boon to the area because our community's interest in tennis is an all-time high. A Walden graduate, PJ Gibson, has gone on to play professional tennis. 3 Walden seniors competed at the state tennis championships last summer. We need a better facility to support our student athletes in all sports. Everyone in the community would benefit from it. The area could be used for a community festival every year. I think it would be fun if we held it in the summer. We could call it Winterville Fest. Local merchants could sell their goods and promote their stores. We could set up a carnival-style arcade where families could play games. Local bands could play on a main stage that the community would build. On the final night of the festival, we'd have a fireworks display. I understand Raul's point about the need for economic development in Winterville, but there must be better ways to do that. It's bad enough that the new highway cuts so close to Main Street. We don't need thousands of people from all over the state coming to a huge retail store in our town. We have to think of the needs of our kids in our community first. I want Winterville to grow. We should plan that growth in a way that supports our community and helps it retain its small town appeal. Julie Henderson, parent and Winterville resident for 30 years. We have now reached the conclusion of this story. You should return to the Google Classroom. If this is your first read, you will, or second read, you have completed it. Just make sure you've thought about the orange and green box questions. If this is your third read, after completing your consideration of the blue box questions, you should go ahead and answer the questions in the comprehension check. There will be a video on that third read for the comprehension check that is going to serve as a read aloud. If you have any questions or want to discuss these prior to that point, please reach out to me at mireland@sagchipschool.net. Have a minute, Gijigad, Minwa, Bumblebee.